Please do check out Deku Deals. It's what we use on the channel and it's what lots of other channels use. It's a great way of checking out the sale prices on games. I guess the only difference is we make sure we've actually played the games that we recommend, so hopefully it gives you some idea of what they're like. Those sneaky Nintendo people have started the European eShop sale right after the US one ends. So as always, if you want to buy eShop credit and save 10%, you can use code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. Just select a European country flag and you can buy credit from any region and then use that on an account to buy these games. Now most of these will be in the EU regions and quite a few of them weren't actually in the US sale, so hopefully they're ones worth keeping your eye on, as well as a couple that have never been on sale before. My name's Mark Walker, welcome back to SwitchUp. What are the best January sales? Well, let's find out. First up then, I'm going to give a brief mention to two of the best games on Switch at ridiculous prices. We've got Ori and the Blind Forest, the definitive edition, down to £5.62. That's 63% off until January the 8th on the Nintendo eShop. And this is a Metroidvania in the classic sense, but with beautiful Studio Ghibli artwork and a really enjoyable and, to be honest, a little bit emotive storyline. The introduction to this one is one of the few games that has almost made me cry. I'm not ashamed to say it. Now, Moon Studios did a brilliant job bringing this across to the Switch. It runs well enough and it looks great, and you're looking at around about a 10 to 12 hour adventure if you're reasonably fast paced, but for someone like me it's more like 15. Now on the back of that one you've got the sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is currently £6.24. That's 75% off, and again it's its lowest ever price, and both of these do have physicals available that you can usually find at a discounted rate if you look around. But the sequel took the first game and then built upon every aspect of it. It also included a quite interesting online speedrun type mechanic that you didn't have to partake in at all, but it was a little added extra with race leaderboards for the best players. Now it's still a Metroidvania, it still has that lovely Studio Ghibli handcrafted style, and I mean what, you can pick both of these up for just over a tenner. That is an absolute January bargain, almost unbeatable. Next up we've got a JRPG that I absolutely loved, it's Cris Tales. Now straight off the bat, I know a few of you have been asking me in the comments, are the load times as bad as we have heard on the Switch? And look, there are load times every time you go into battle, which is a bit of a problem because they're not instantaneous. But I played through this, it took me about 30 hours, and it is a bit annoying at times, but there's not so much forced combat that it really became too much of an issue. Now saying that, it's certainly something to consider, but the actual gameplay I thought was really good and I enjoyed the storyline. It has a very interesting mechanic where a lot of the side quests that you undertake will affect the past as well as the future. It's something that's a good way of kind of telling you how that works, and that's that one of the towns is essentially flooded in the future, and then through doing the side quests you change what happens to it. Now that doesn't have a huge bearing on the story or the narrative, but in terms of making side quests actually useful and feel like you're actually achieving something, I thought that was very cool. Now I love the art style as well, I think this is one that will defy opinion, but overall for a what, £4.99, it's 86% off at the moment in the EU. That's a ludicrously good price, and it would certainly be one I'd add to my collection if I was a JRPG fan. Then we've got the action-heavy Metroidvania Fist, forged in Shadow Torch, that features a bunny rabbit who seems to have grown up in a very similar city to Midgar from Final Fantasy VII, and with a narrative that's loosely based, I believe, on either the Chinese or Japanese invasion of another country. Is it the Japanese invasion of China? I think that's right. If not, the history buffs are like crying somewhere. But essentially the whole of the city is under lockdown by the dogs, which I guess could represent Nazi Germany as well. And it's got a very cool mechanic whereby you get different fists that can do different things, like act as a helicopter blade to allow you to slowly descend. You can grab onto walls and then climb to higher areas. And the combat is, for a Metroidvania at least, actually quite nice. There are some tough boss fights in here, there are some really nice little story moments. And for £16.19, 40% off, that's the cheapest it's ever been on the Switch. Certainly if you're a fan of the genre, there's a lot to love here. Just to throw in a little extra one, because everyone likes a little bonus ball, the game HAAK, H-A-A-K, that we reviewed on the channel is currently at its lowest price as well. That's a really nice traditional style Metroidvania in a near future cyberpunk setting, and I believe was developed by a small Chinese indie dev team, and we really enjoyed it. We've got a review of that one as well. That's currently on sale, only at 15% off, but still it's only 14 quid, so another bargain really. Or even HAIKU the robot, sorry, but that's a single indie developer, and at the moment that's its cheapest, 25% off. Lovely little game that, and the guy is such a legend, so yeah, maybe give that a a tinker as well. GRIS or GRIS, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced GRIS, but it's an adventure platformer with a very chilled atmosphere. It's very much a serene experience that has probably some of the best artwork I've ever seen. And while it's not overly complex, and in many ways they could have done a bit more in terms of the actual gameplay, there's enough here to just kind of breeze your way through, staring at the artwork and chilling to the soundtrack. And it won't take you a great deal of time. About 4 to 6 hours is all you're looking at. And we do have a review of this one again on the channel if you want to check that out. But it's not a game that's particularly challenging in the sense that you'll be fighting enemies or anything like that. It's really experiential, a bit of puzzle platforming, and just marveling at the way it looks. 75% off, down to £3.62. That is the price of 500 grams of pick and mix, delivered directly to your door from Gadgie Shakes. I'm so sorry if you're not in this country. Google. We've just released a best first person shooters of the year video, and someone actually rightly corrected me that Doom, the original one, doesn't actually have gyroscopic controls. But I'm almost positive that Doom Eternal does. Now this one's 75% off at the moment, down to £12.49, which is a very nice price. That is decent. It does actually have an online mode as well for 2 or 3 players, but have I played it? No, I haven't. And there is an Ancient Gods DLC, which is much more vertical. I actually really struggled. There's this one section and it asks you to do this like platform leap and then grapple onto this other platform, and it's horrible. Like, I died probably 10, 15, 20 times. In fact, I think if I load the game back up, I'm probably still at that point because it was so frustrating I gave up. But the first one, Doom Eternal, before the expansion, wasn't as vertical. It's still more so than the first 2016 release. But yeah, it just... platforming in first person. Why? No, there's got to be a good way of doing it. I mean, I don't know if the character should like switch to third person just for the platforming sections. What do you reckon? There's got to be a way. Or has there been a game that's done it better? But yeah, no, it really put me off the expansion pack. But I had a blast with Doom Eternal. Check out our review if you're interested. 75% off, Barjan. I'm having the expansion as my hidden gem this week. But Fell Seal probably for a lot of you will be a hidden gem. And at the moment, it's its cheapest ever price. That's £7.19. 70% off. And the DLC, if you didn't know there was one, Missions and Monsters, is just £3.29. So you can grab them both for about a tenner, which is, yeah, really good. Now this is a tactical RPG, so things like Disgaea, the more recent Triangle Strategy, if you like those experiences then you'll love this. I really like this art style. It's somewhere between watercolour and like a traditional comic book, and the story takes place over 40 different encounters, but what I liked is it starts on such a good foot. It doesn't do all that waffle. It kicks you right off in the middle of, no spoilers Mark, don't ruin the game. It kicks you right off in the middle of an interesting moment, and then you have to deal with the consequences. Yeah, I really like this. I think this is a hidden gem. 1.7 gigs and a massive 50 to 100 hours of gameplay at least, especially with the expansion pack. Here's a lovely little classic style top-down roguelite that you can play with a pal for just over £1, £1.34, that's 85% off. It's Hammerwatch. Now if you're a roguelite fan, this will be right up there. In fact, you can do 4 players at the same time. And this is one of our earliest reviews on the channel. Just check out the voice of Glen in this video.
Getting your shots away and then rapid firing when you've made yourself some space.
I think it's fair to say we've come on a little way since then. But the core thing is still there. The guy still writes incredible reviews. We've just got a little bit more confident at actually speaking, and that horrible moment where you hear your own voice. Now this one features 7 different classes. There are 2 full campaigns to play through, and I believe they added in a couple of extra modes as well, the hero defense and survival modes. Now as I say, for just over £1, one of the best top-down co-op roguelites, I highly recommend this. Really, really good game. When I make these videos, I know there are 2 different types of people really. There are those looking for the absolute lowest prices ever, and then there are those that are looking for the game that they can put their money into and spend a serious amount of quality time in. And I think that's where 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim falls. Now at the moment it's 40% off, but it's still £29.99, so that might put it out of some people's budgets. But it's an absolutely excellent hybrid because it has strategy elements in it, real-time strategy with this kaiju mech combat that takes place on like a futuristic grid. They could have done more with that. Like, it would have been nice to see like full-on Godzilla creatures and your mechs fighting them, but this works really well for actually making it easy to control. And then it splits between that and almost like a 2D side-scrolling adventure where you meet loads of different characters. If you remember the sections in Persona 5 where you're going around the school and doing all that kind of stuff, the 2D sections are a little bit more like that, except there are lots of different time travelers and you basically control lots of different members, and then those storylines come back together. It's brilliantly done, really is. It was one of my best games and could easily have made this list. I forgot actually that this came out in April of 2022, so it could have easily made our best games list of the year. In terms of length, you're looking at around about 40 to 50 hours at a casual pace. You could probably push through a bit quicker than that, but yeah, we all know how slow I am. Then we've got Wolfenstein 2, which again on my first person list I said didn't have gyro controls, and someone piped up, you're totally wrong again, it does have gyro, and that's upsetting. I mean, it's not upsetting, it's good news, but it's upsetting to be wrong, but I don't really care. So yeah, good news really, as at the moment it's its cheapest ever price, 85% off in the EU regions, down to £5.24. I'm sure there are a few people that like first person shooters as much as I do, and this is actually a really nice one to play on the Switch. Sometimes they feel compromised, don't they? But actually it benefits from being on that in that small form factor if you're playing in handheld with gyro, or if you're playing on the big screen. Some caveats, things like a little bit more blur and stuff like that, and maybe slightly longer loading times, but otherwise yeah, really nice, and I enjoyed it a lot on the Nintendo Switch. One that I don't think I've ever seen on sale, it has been, although I just haven't seen it, it's Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Now, if you're not familiar with the original, this one released way back in the day, and now we've got a slightly improved, I have to say, version on the Switch, which is nice to say. They've used the motion controls of the Joy-Con if you want to use it for certain powers and lightsaber combos. They're a bit gimmicky, but it's still nice to have it there. There's also a local multiplayer mode that can have you both whiffing your Joy-Cons around in the air, dueling each other with 27 different characters. But the storyline's very cool. I actually think it's one of the better Star Wars stories, not just for the games. Like, this would have made a good film, the overall narrative. You play a Starkiller, who's essentially Darth Vader's apprentice, who obviously isn't exactly a good guy. And without spoiling it, things don't go to plan for someone. I just won't say who. If you're not interested in this Star Wars game, then all of the Star Wars games are currently on sale in this EU sale. All of them, again, either match or beat their best ever prices. I won't recommend Knights of the Old Republic 2 because Aspyr still haven't added in that extra content they said they were going to, which is a little bit frustrating. But you've still got things like Jedi Academy, Knights of the Old Republic 1, Jedi Knight 2, just great games. So that's it for this list. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a nice Christmas and a brilliant new year. We are getting the motors running again, getting back up to full steam. We did have our best ever year last year for the channel, which is just incredible. And even December was our best ever month. I don't really know how that happens. Like, we do try our best, obviously. But you look at some of these channels and you're like, my goodness, they've got all the bells and the whistles and stuff. And I haven't got any whistles, really. It's not in my repertoire. Whistles are not there. Bad takeaway food references, of course, but not whistles. So there you are. Save yourself 10% on any of these games using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. A thanks from Glen and I for enjoying the channel in the last year, and hopefully you will in the year to come. We've got some nice games to look forward to. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch Up. Cheers, guys. See ya!